This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, great. Now, what are we talking yesterday is about the virtual machine. We spoke about the virtual machine architecture and we spoke about how to install IIS on top of your virtual machine. And as in when you install IIS on your virtual machine gets converted into what? The virtual machine gets converted into an application server, meaning that's your application server, which fetches your application and all that stuff. Great. But let's do one more thing today. Let me go ahead and say VM sample, say create, and I'm just creating a sample resource group out here. And now I'll go ahead and into the resource group and I'll start creating a virtual machine. So I'll say create and I'll say Windows Server 2019 data center. And I'll basically say, okay, fine, this is like VM3, something like this. And this is like ECS2. Test user. So image, I'm just selecting the Windows Server 2019. I'll say no redundancy infrastructure required. I'll say this is the size. I'll say test user hyphen Microsoft hyphen 001. Microsoft hyphen 001. I'll say fine and next. This is the concept what we are going to talk about today. Like what are the disk types or what all can you really do with this particular pane, with this particular page out here. Now by default, you will need at least one disk to host your operating system. And you can select that as a premium SSD, standard SSD or a standard HDD. Same like the one that we did in storage account, guys. We had standard and premium, right? Here in premium, you have two different things. So for a standard, right? Like standard is like for just your testing purposes. Microsoft says use standard for your testing purposes. But when you're actually, want to run an application and etc., you want your story, you want the data to be fast, the rate of retrieval to be very fast, then go for something like an SSD tier, like a solid state drive tier. I'll say, okay, fine, great. I'll go for an SSD tier. And I said premium SSD. And now Microsoft says, hey, you know what? At the end of the day, after you create this particular storage account, sorry, after you create this particular disk out here and attach it to the virtual machine, you're going to have sensitive information, right? You're going to place data into it, like whether sensitive, non-sensitive, not a problem. You're going to place data inside it. And my role as a cloud provider is to make sure that no one hacks into your data. So what am I going to do is I am going to encrypt your data at rest with a platform managed key. This is called a platform managed key, PMK. It says data would be encrypted at rest, meaning your data will not be stolen. Your data would be safe. I will encrypt, meaning I'll lock your data using what? A platform managed key. Who's the platform here? See, you have to follow the term out here. It's called platform managed, meaning platform is Microsoft and Microsoft is managing all these keys. You do not have to take that headache of it. But let's say you're a customer who's like, you know what, I want to manage my own keys. You can select this and say encryption at rest with a customer managed key. Now it says disk encryption set. You need a service called Azure Key Vault for this. We'll be discussing on what the Key Vault is and all that stuff. So you can have your own key, put it in a service called Azure Key Vault and get your keys from here. All these keys are managed by you. Or you can go for double encryption. This is a new option that they've put in, that even platform and you can also manage for double protection and all that stuff. But for now, I'll say I'll go with the default option. I'll say it is like encryption at rest with, let's say, platform managed keys. And Microsoft now asks me, okay, fine, you also can add data disks to it. I'll say, okay, fine, I will attach or create new data disk and attach it out. And here I am able to select premium SSD. Why am I able to select a premium SSD? It's because I have selected a size that supports premium SSDs. Now, if you look at the size, right, the very important factor is this, guys. When you're selecting a size, You'll have to see whether the premium is supported or not. Most of the sizes available out there do support premium. Most of them, they do support premium. Is it premium? Like, is this supporting premium? Yes, great, good. This is something that you'll have to see. A few sizes like the A series and all, they do not support premium. So you'll have to just check this size, whether to see whether it's supporting a premium disk or not, and then select this out. So I've selected a size, and hence it's telling me, okay, fine, you have a premium, you can go for it. I'll say now, okay, fine. I will create and attach a new one. It says, okay, fine. What kind of storage account is, I mean, what kind of, let's say, storage is it? I'll say, okay, fine. This is a 1024 GB or 1 TB hard drive. That is in premium SSD LRS, local redundant storage. Same thing, I'll basically encrypt it at rest, which is great, fine, not a problem. Now, can I change the size? Can I go for, let's say, a smaller size here? Definitely yes. How can I do it? I can say change size, and I can say I can choose from the existing sizes. And I'll say 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, whatever it is. I'll choose from the existing sizes. Now, when it comes to, let's say, choosing a size, I am not really looking at the storage space. Yes, a primary factor. Yes, I agree. But what am I rather looking at, or what basically is my deciding factor, is called provisioned IOPS, provision throughput. IOPS and throughput, guys. Two most important factors that you'll have to actually look at while doing this out. Two main factors that you'll have to actually look at while, let's say, selecting, let's say, your data disks. Then what is IOPS and what is throughput? Like, these terms are, really new to us, and what is that exactly? IOPS is nothing but an acronym for input and output speed. Now, you are creating nothing but a disk basically out here to do what? Read and write operations, right? Meaning, when you're putting data inside that particular disk, you're doing a write operation. When you're reading data from that particular disk, you're doing a read operation. Then what are the maximum writes or reads, or a combination of both? What are the maximum that I can do per second? This is decided by IOPS. Meaning, if I'll go to, let's say, 1024, it's telling me you can do 5000 IOPS per second. Meaning, you can either do 5000 write operations per second, meaning I can write on my disk 5000 times at the same second, or you can read it 5000 times in the same second, or you can do 2500 writes, 2500 reads at the same second. This is calculated at input and output speed per second. So I can do 5000 read and writes. And let's say if I go for a smaller size, right, my IOPS is also getting reduced. My IOPS is also kind of getting reduced when I, let's say, go for a smaller size out here, which says, okay, fine, you know what, this is a smaller size, I cannot provision you so much. Now, when you talk about, let's say, SSDs out here, they come with a different series, and all they have, see, even more lesser IOPS and throughput. The smaller you go, the lesser the performance is. The IOPS and all are actually reduced. So if I go for a premium, since I'm like a premium out here, I'm going for a premium. I'm saying in 4 GB you're getting how many? 120 read and write operations per second. Meaning you can write 120 times on your disk in a particular second, or read from it in a particular second. But when I say write and read, then can I write in that particular second? Can I, let's say, write 1 GB of data? I did not talk about the size of the data, right? I just talked about the read and write operations right now. I said in 1 second you can do 120 operations. So can I say in 1 second, can I write 1 GB of data? No, not really. Then I ask Microsoft, then what is the deciding factor of it? Microsoft says it is throughput. Throughput is calculated in MBs per second. In 1 second, at the max for a 4 GB with 120 IOPS, you can do 25 MBs per second. 25 25 megabytes per second is what you get with this particular with this particular IOPS out there. If you want to go for a higher IOPS, want to go for a higher throughput and IOPS, you will go for a higher size. The greater the size, the greater would be your IOPS and the greater would be your throughput. This is one of the most important factors before I choose a data disk, guys. Guys, is this okay? Any questions here before we go forward? So I select a 1024 GB, meaning a 1 terabyte hard drive. I'll say okay. I selected this. I can say, give the name of the data disk and all that stuff, which is great. And I'll say fine, next, networking. All these are like, common. I'll say disable, boot diagnostics, advanced, review and create. Yes, guys, any questions? Okay. So fine, I'll say review and create. And now it's telling me, see, you also added a data disk, right? For that also, I'll charge you. Without the data disk, it was costing me somewhere around 13.7 yesterday, if you remember. Now it's costing me how much? 14.192 INR per an hour. And if you're running this 24 hours, 24 and 30 days per day, 30 days per month into 30. This would be your cost that is incurred per month. This is how you normally calculate the cost out there. Let me erase this out. Let me say review and create. And this will now go ahead and, let's say, create a particular virtual machine with an OS disk. Now OS disk by default comes with a size of 127 GB and with a 1024 GB data drive, which was optional, and I added it out. Meaning I went for a C drive and I also went for a D drive. Now, what is the maximum data drives then I can attach to it? Can I attach, let's say, 1024 into 10 or into 15? Is it possible? Certainly yes. But again, it depends upon the size of the virtual machine that you're going for. Let's say I have a virtual machine out here. Let me see the size of this particular machine, which is like virtual machine, which is like DS2 something. And if I go into the size of this particular machine, right, the maximum number of data disks that is supported is what? 4. The maximum that I support, irrespective of what your size is, I'll support 4 data disks. So even your number of data disks that you can attach to your virtual machine again boils down to the size, the series of the virtual machine that you're selecting. So if you want greater, you'll have to go for a greater series of virtual machine, which will also cost you higher. So it's all related to what you're trying to select, how you're trying to select, depending upon. So you'll have to see what is the series. Does the series firstly support premium disks? Secondly, what is the number of data disks that the particular series can support? Just in case if I go for a 1 terabyte and that's full, can I add something else to it? That is also decided by the series of the virtual machine that you're actually going, the family of the virtual machine that you're actually going. So these factors become crucial while you are, kind of selecting this particular size and all that stuff. Guys, any questions? Any questions up till this point, guys?
Can we change the virtual machine size to different sizes later?
Definitely yes. Definitely yes. Yes, you can change it to a different size. For example, this virtual machine right now is running on a D2 SV3, right? What do I have to do is firstly stop this virtual machine and then go to the size and scale it up or scale it down. It will take 2 minutes. So you will expect a downtime of 2 minutes. So you can scale it up, scale it down at any given point in time.
Will data exist in that disk when we are doing scaling up and down?
Yes, if you are scaling down, right, for example, you have 2 data drives. And if you want to scale down to a size that doesn't support 2, your scale down will not happen. because you cannot shrink your data, you can expand things out.
Yeah, got it. And disk extension is nothing but we are scaling up, right?
Exactly. What we are doing is that we are scaling up the size and we are adding another disk. That's it.
Okay. And
So
there is no way we can extend like VMware, right?
no, you cannot extend like a VMware. You cannot do that.
I need to add new disk and I need to
And
merge it.
then yeah, you need to like add it to let's say that particular virtual machine.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so I stopped the machine. Like this was an existing machine out there. So I stopped it. I can now scale it up. I can hit something and resize. This will resize your virtual machine. So from a DS to V3, I'm like just going to let's say a D to AS V4. And conditions also apply is that the region in which basically that you are kind of selecting this or creating the storage account should also support the same. And right now it's throwing me an error because it's also creating the same storage account in the same region. So that's the reason there is a conflicting basically happening out there. So in a normal condition, see, it again gave me an internal server error because if I do like couple of operations same, right, it'll kind of throw me an error out here telling that what is an internal server error and all that stuff. So this is something that you'll have to just take care of while let's say creating the storage account and all that stuff and all. So let me do this. Let me go to an existing storage account. I'll just start this machine out.
One thing, input of IO operations per second is 500 means that is like both are 500 or individual is 500 input of.
Both as in like the yeah, I mean it is both together 500 input or output.
Okay.
Okay. So what I'm doing, Akira, you're not using this virtual machine, are you? I think you have created it, right?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, fine. I'll just reset the password so that I can use it out. So what I'm doing right now is I'll create or attach a new disk to it since this particular virtual machine is taking some time to get created. What I'll do is I'll say, okay, fine, this is a premium SSD, and I can also add it after I'm creating the virtual machine. Premium SSD, I'll say 1024, and even if I do 1024, right, even the IOPS and all are kind of changing. I'll say save. Okay, sorry. So VM disk 123, save. Okay, there is a lot of throttling that is going on today. Let me do the refresh and see if the disk got attached. Okay, the disk did not get attached, and I am stuck with this particular deployment, which is throwing an internal server error out here. So let's wait for this deployment to get completed. Now this is what happens when you do multiple operations at the same time. Like you're trying to alter something, you're trying to delete something, and all that stuff, right? So Microsoft is like going to throttle you out here. So this is something that you'll have to be a bit careful about. Fine, while this is getting created, or let me go ahead and create a new one. Let me cancel this operation firstly. Say cancel. I don't need this because this is any which way is not going to get created. Okay, it says find error. Fine, not a problem. Let me go and delete this resource script directly. And let me go ahead and create a new one. And let's say VM sample 2. This time I'll create in a different region like a West US 2 or something to avoid, let's say, the regional throttling out there. Say Windows Server 2019. Just go ahead and say this is VM4. Let's say North Europe. Let's say test user. Microsoft -001. Microsoft -001. Fine, all this is great. And now I'll go ahead and also attach a disk out here. So I'll say create a new disk and attach it. And guys, remember one thing, even the disks are regional in nature. You cannot attach a disk that is lying in ECS2 to a virtual machine that is running in North Europe. This is something that you'll have to be very careful about. Networking, create a new network. Management, create, disable this out.
Can we attach
Advanced,
multiple disks?
yes, we can attach multiple disks depending upon the series of the virtual machine that you're going for. So here I have 4. So at the maximum I can attach 4. And you can attach it at this screen also. You can attach a new disk also out here. We can say this is like different size. You can attach it also out there. Does it answer your question? Hello? Does that answer your question, Akila?
Yes, yes.
Okay, fine. So I'll say next, next, next. Review and create this out. Let's hope that this gets created in like 2 or 3 minutes. There's like 14 rupees and stuff. And one thing is, since we're using a free trial account, right? There are a lot of limitations, let's say, when you're kind of using a free trial account. Meaning, if you want to see what is the number of, let's say, virtual machines that you want to create in a particular region, okay, what I do is like I go to my subscription and I would say, okay, fine. In my subscription, I want to see what is the number of disks that or number of the virtual machines that I want to create. I'll say usage plus quota on the subscription level. This will give me the number of virtual machines or the number of data options that I can actually go ahead and create. For example, if you see here, right, it's all full, it's all red. And here I'm looking at Microsoft.compute. This is what I really need out here. Meaning I can create a maximum of 4 cores. When you're selecting the CPU, right, it's saying 2 core, 1 core, right? I can select a maximum of 4 core. And in North Europe, I can select a maximum of, let's say, 10. So this is how your quota is actually allocated. For example, if I just select not all, let's say North Europe, because that's what I'm like interested into, this will also give you what is the maximum number of quota that you can do in North Europe. You can do a maximum of what? 4. And since the deployment did not happen yet, it's saying, you know what, you have, oh, sorry, let me create this up. It's saying, you know what, you have 0 out of the 4 core. After this deployment has happened, right, after the virtual machine has got created, right, it will now say you only have 2 out of the 4. And after 4, what happens? It will just simply throw you an error telling that, hey, you know what, you won't be able to create more than 4 cores of machines. Now, if you look at virtual machines out here, it says, you know what, is 25,000. But it again depends upon what is the number of core that you're going for in that particular machine, virtual machine. I selected a DS2V3 option out here, which gives me 2 core CPU. Like I have a 2 core CPU out here, and the maximum I can go is like 4. So the maximum is 4. I cannot go beyond that particular point. Can you increase it? Yes, there is an option to request increase quota. This will raise a new support request out there to Microsoft telling that, you know what do you need exactly? And Microsoft will evaluate on a case-to-case basis. And with my experience, 99% of the times they will not let you increase anything, because this is like kind of set for all the subscription as such. Then what is the other alternative? What we do is, like, for example, in the organization where I work, we have all these things full. Like the organization where I work kind of uses a premium account. So instead of 4, we have 100. Like we can create 100 cores, and that is not sufficient for us. And after 100, we went ahead and raised a quota increase with Microsoft, and Microsoft simply said that we won't be able to entertain this. I'm really sorry about it. So what we did is we created a new subscription with a new kind of a set of an account, and that gave us again, let's say, 100 cores again. So we went ahead and created something in the new subscription under the same tenant. So you can add multiple subscriptions at the same tenant, right? This is a solutions what we kind of give. This is what we face, let's say, in the real-time scenario. See, again, this is a bad request and all that stuff. Referring to, okay, fine. There is something that is happening today. Okay, fine. Let me try using the existing machine that I have here, which I'll go with this. Since there is no deployment that is going on right now. Let's, okay, this is deleting it, not a problem, great. Let me go to this particular disk and let me try adding a new disk out here. Let me save. Say this is VM-08 and disk.
So if we are using pay-as-you-go account subscription also, they are not going to increase the quota?
No, they're not going to increase the quota. The quota is actually set at the subscription level out there. So they won't be able to entertain any customer as such. So if the quota is like done, yeah.
But we are paying, right? Paying to them. We are not
Though
using
you're
any
paying, what is happening is that, for example, they have set that particular property for all the pay-as-you-go subscriptions. So if they change it for you, even the other customers also get reflected the same thing. So that is the reason they say, you know what, I won't be able to entertain you. If there is something that they can do it in their limitation, they can, go ahead and do that for you. They'll be able to help you out with that. That's the logic of what Microsoft actually does out there.
Okay, but that is a problem to the customers. When
Only if, let's say, you're doing more than 100, and 100 cores is actually a lot. 100 core CPU is like actually a lot. Like a lot, meaning a lot. Meaning we've been using, like, I am working for an MNC right now, and it's a very big MNC. And we have now exhausted our subscription after 5 years. So we kind of like, we're working with the same subscriptions in the last 5 years, and now we have exhausted it out. So you get actually a good amount of quota what Microsoft gives you out there. But for a free trial, there is a lot of limitation, especially because you're not paying anything to Microsoft, right? So I'll just reset the password for this particular account so that we can use it. And let's update it. And what I did right now is that I went ahead and added a disk here, which is of a size of 1024 GB, which is 1 terabyte. And it already had, okay, fine. It already had basically something like a premium SSD, which is 127 GB out here. Akira, can you give me the ID and password for this particular virtual machine so that I can log in? It's not allowing me to, let's say, update the password out here.
Yeah, yes.
And delete this virtual machine after we are done. Okay, do you want to type it or okay? Oh, this is the username.
Yes, username.
So with space, is it? Like this.
Yes.
And now I have like booted into this particular machine out here. And since it's a server, it's like loading up the server manager page and etc. And when I go into this, right, I still don't see my 1024 GB that I have attached to it. I'm pretty sure I've attached something, right? I have pretty sure that I have attached this particular thing called an external drive of, let's say, 1024 GB out here, but I am not able to see it. The reason, guys, is that, again, following up with yesterday's class, this is an infrastructure as a service. You added something at the infrastructure layer. This is the layer that you added. On top of this layer, you have something known as an OS and runtime, all these things, right? Even this layer needs to identify this particular disk is being added. As of now, it did not. Then how do I force my operating system to pick that up? So what I'm going to do is like, I'm going to log into this particular machine out here. I'm going to go into the server manager. I'm going to go into the files and storage service, the disks. And now it's telling, hey, you know what? There is a 1 terabyte disk that I'm able to see, which is unallocated. There is no allocation yet. So I'll say new volume. Just say next. Say okay. It says, you know what, this is like 1024 GB out here. And drive letter will be kind of E. You can select a drive letter out here. E, let's say next. Let's say new. Let's say create. And this is done. Once you created it, now you will be able to get the new volume out here. Once you create it, you will now get a new volume out here, guys. So this is what you need to do. Again, the files and storage services, disks, and then you need to basically create a new volume out of it. So it will format your entire drive and give you a new drive out here. This is at the OS level. Whenever you add a disk to a virtual machine, you kind of add it to, let's say, an infrastructure layer out there. And after the infrastructure layer is done, you'll now go ahead and, let's say, ask the OS to, hey, you know what, recognize this one out. Now let's do one more thing. I'll say new file. I'll say this is a sample file. Say this is a sample test. Save this out. And now what happened is that I have a volume called new volume E, and I have kind of, let's say, somewhere around 1024 GB out here. Now imagine a scenario that out of this 1024 GB, you've filled up with all the data, all the sensitive information that is actually required for your application to run. You kind of fill this up completely. And this contains all the sensitive information. And what if your OS now crashes? Or what if, let's say, that disk goes bad? Can it happen? Definitely yes. Because at the end of the day, this is nothing but a backend server in a data center, right? So it can go bad. Like there can arise such a kind of a scenario where your OS can crash. Then how do I protect this out? Like, how do I back up my disks is the very important question that I need to ask. Microsoft says, you know what? This is exactly a reason why I have an option called disk snapshot. I'll say, okay, fine, VM disk 08. I'll go into this, and this is an actual resource. Meaning, if you look at the resource group, you have a couple of resources out here, out of which there's an OS disk and there's a VM disk also. And this is the data disk out here, and this is the OS disk out here. And there are a couple of resources like network interface card, network security, group rules, public IP, and all that stuff. So what am I doing right now is that I will go into the data drive, into, let's say, this particular data disks, and I'll say create a snapshot. It is, hey, you know what? Can you give me the name of your snapshot? I'll say VM data 08 snapshot. It now is asking me what kind of snapshot do you want? Whether it's a full snapshot or whether it's an incremental snapshot. A full snapshot kind of takes the complete data inside that, let's say, that particular drive. And incremental, you can go in, let's say, in phases. That for the first one, I only want these particular folders. Second one, I've added new folders, only take that backup. That is called incremental approach. So I'll say I want a full snapshot right now. And even the snapshots, right, though they have they are giving you something known as snapshot, at the end of the day, it's nothing but a storage account that is sitting in the backend. a storage account that is sitting in the backend, and you can select the redundancy type. Like we have different redundancies, right? So we can go ahead and select the redundancy type to just make sure that it is protected. So I'll say fine, this is a premium SSD, it is great. I'm okay with this, meaning I'll get an LRS and all that stuff. I'll say okay, it says, we strongly recommend that it's premium regardless of the size and all that stuff, which is great, not a problem. I'll say review and create. It says okay, fine, let's go ahead and create this out. Now, this is not doing anything to your data disk. Your application that is running is not interrupted. Rather, you will now have a new resource that's getting created, which is called a snapshot. Your existing data drive will not be hampered in any ways. Your existing data drive is not going to be hampered in any ways. It's going to be intact. But right now, see, the type of the resource what Microsoft is trying to create right now is called microsoft.compute/snapshots. And it said, you know what, it took like about two minutes of time and it went ahead and created this out. Now, how will this look like? Go into the same resource group called VM sample. Take this out and I will give it a couple of refreshes out here. And I have something known as snapshot out here. So these are disks, network interface group. This is a snapshot. This snapshot, meaning what exactly do you mean by a snapshot out here is like you have your phone, you took a screenshot of your phone at let's say 8:38 a.m. today. So whatever was the text on your phone at that particular given point in time, whatever the wallpaper on your phone, whatever the time on your phone is captured. It is time captured, meaning at that time, whatever was the state of the data at this particular point in time, whatever was the state of the data, I went ahead and captured it out in the form of something known as a snapshot, static in nature. Say array is fine, normal. And this is going to have this particular data out here, guys. Sample file, something like this. Now, what can I do with this particular snapshot? What can I really do with this is that I can go ahead and create a new data disk out of the snapshot. I have an option to go ahead and say, create a new data disk from this particular snapshot. What I'll do is like, okay, fine. I'll say, okay, fine. This particular snapshot is in East US. So I'll go ahead and create a disk from it. As in when I hit it, it says, hey, you know what? The region is static. I won't change the region. And since the snapshot is 1024, meaning that was the 1024 GB drive, you can have a 1024 only. You cannot go beyond, you cannot go below it. You can go definitely above it, can't go below it. You can also go below it, but it's not recommended at all. Because let's say you have like about 900 GB of data and you want to take a 500 GB of you want to create a 500 GB of the disk from this particular snapshot out here, then you will have a lot of data loss. So Microsoft will not allow you to create something like that. So I'll say the disk name is VM disk snapshot. Everything else is like the source snapshot and all is like kind of logged out, and availability zones are like, we'll talk about what availability zones and all that stuff. For now, we'll just leave that. Encryption type is platform managed, and I'll just say review and create. So it's like giving me 1024, and this is like the premium SSD because that is what I selected. And I have, let's say, the IOPS and let's say the throughput basically that came along with it. So I'll say create. So I have created a snapshot right now. I have taken something known as a snapshot of my disk, and I am creating from this particular image, I am creating a drive. I am creating a new disk from this particular image out here. I am altogether making a new entity out here. Will this snapshot get deleted? No. You'll have to manually delete it if you don't want it, but it will be there. Let's say in your let's say in your research group, this won't get exhausted. You can create another disk also from it again. You can do multiple things from that particular snapshot out there. But right now what I did is like I went ahead and I said, you know what, create a new disk for me. And this went ahead and this would have created a new disk in that particular research group out there. So you see the snapshot is also there. And right now if I group by type, let me refresh this a couple of times. There is a problem with the portal. Yeah, got it. Now it says VM disk snapshot. And you also have the snapshot out here. The difference between them is the icon and also the type. This is a type called snapshot. This is a type called disk. So I have the disk out here. What can I do with this disk? Can I really consume this data right away? No. What you have to do probably is attach this disk to a new VM or an existing VM. You can do both, either a new one or an existing one. What I'll do for simplicity, not to waste time and going ahead and create a new VM, I'll just go ahead and attach it to the same VM from where we took the snapshot from. Can we do it? Of course, yes. I have C, I have D, I have E, 3 drives out here. And this particular guy has a sample file. It's called, this is a sample test. What I'm going to do is like, I'll just close this machine for a second. I'll just go into this particular virtual machine, go into the disks. And now I'll attach an existing disk. I won't create a new disk. I'll attach an existing one. And initially, you'll have to do a 1 or 2 times refresh. Until then it'll get reflected. Now it says, you know what, I see that you have a disk in that particular region which is called VM disk snapshot. Do you want to go ahead and attach it? I'll say yes, please go ahead and attach it.
Cannot we attach the disk when the VM is online?
We can attach the disk when the VM is online. Like I avoided it to do what would happen is like there would be a data discrepancy concept that's going to happen. Like when the VM is online and you're trying to attach the disk, right, it might fail or Azure might throttle you. So that's the reason I just closed that off and then did this out, just to make sure that I'm not wasting time out there. You can also do that, but suggested not to do it. Like, see, when your machine is running, take your own laptop, when your machine is running, can you open up your, let's say, a cabinet and try to attach something? You can definitely try to do it, but the OS might get corrupt and all that stuff, right? So that is the reason we kind of stop the machine, do this, and then kind of update it out. Always suggested to stop the machine firstly, so that it
Okay.
won't corrupt the state of the operating system.
Okay.
So I'll just take the IP. I'll just say, okay, fine. I have the user ID, which is great. And I'll just say Microsoft -001. And let's see. We have E. We had E earlier, and it is not recognizing. The operating system is not recognizing. So what do we need to do? Server manager. Go to that particular dashboard. Files and storage services. Disks again. And there is a new one, which is like right now online, and you can go ahead and mount this out. So okay, fine. Just like bring online. Like it's offline right now. It says bring online. And now it's like, okay, fine, online. Let me see. Okay. Don't want to format it. Second, let me just again close this out and open this out again. Where's that? Okay, got it. Now it's like online right now. And this is F. And we have the same data, what we were looking, let's say, in E drive. Same data out here in F also. So what I did is like I packed up all the files basically at that given point in time, and I just took a snapshot of it. Then I said, okay, fine. Let me create a disk out of this particular snapshot. Let me create a new drive from this particular snapshot and attach it to this particular virtual machine out there. Did it work? It definitely did work. So I just took my virtual machine offline for a brief period of time. I just closed my virtual machine and it was still running, guys. I did not change the state of it. It was still running. Okay, and it went ahead and attached that particular data drive out there, and all I had to do is go inside it and bring it online, and it went ahead and it assigned a drive data to it, and you can start using that particular disk. This option is called as a disk snapshot. Now, can you schedule a disk snapshot? No, unfortunately that is not an option that Microsoft has provided to you all. But can you do some sort of an automation? Certainly yes. You can write a PowerShell script that will trigger for a particular point in time and automatically take snapshots, let's say for every 24 hours, and put it. But is there an automated way of, let's say, taking my backups? Yes, definitely. Azure is offering something called as an Azure backup and recovery options, which we are going to see tomorrow. But there is definitely a scheduled backup options where you can back up your entire, meaning your OS data, everything. And we'll see what are the options out there and all that stuff. Now this is the disk snapshot option. Now when we were creating, like that's the end of that particular concept called disk snapshot, guys. One quick note here is that when we're creating, let's say, a virtual machine out here, not minding about all those things out right now, by default Microsoft is telling that, hey, you know what, I am giving you I'm giving you a disk, data disk and all that stuff, and this is at the end of the day a resource, right? Meaning a physical resource in some data center. Now who will do all that hardware patching? Who will make sure that this is up to date? It is Microsoft, because you are going for an option called managed disk. Then can you go for, if you're telling that it's a managed, then is there something called unmanaged disk? Yes, definitely. Disks are generally classified into two types: managed and unmanaged. Managed, M, and unmanaged. Managed are the ones which are managed by the platform provider, who's Microsoft. Unmanaged is something that you will have to take care of. Unmanaged is something that you will have to take care of. Then how do you select an unmanaged? Like, we did not see an option to select it. Carefully observe, there is an option to select it. How is it? Go to advanced. By default, it's giving you something known as a managed disk out here. If I disable this, now it's telling you, hey, you know what? It's at your own risk right now. I'm not going to tell anything. Now it's your own risk, and I will only provide you premium if you select standard, right, it'll say, you know what, the selected type is not supported for unmanaged disks. It's only premium SSD and standard HDD that you can actually go for. If you go for a premium SSD, what Microsoft is going to tell is that, hey, you know what, go ahead and create a new storage account or attach an existing premium storage account. This is your storage account, a service that you have to create in Azure portal, and then attach it to your virtual machine as a disk. Attach it to your virtual machine as a disk, and who's going to take care of the redundancy and all these things? It is you. It's you that you're going to take it. And Microsoft gives you a warning telling that, hey, you know what, I recommend you go for a managed option. I recommend you because I'm giving you the best SLA, I'm giving you the best guarantee out here, go for it. Then what is then the incentive for a customer to go for, let's say, an unmanaged disk? What is, let's say, the biggest takeaway with an unmanaged disk is that, let's imagine for now that you are creating a managed disk with 1024 GB of data drive. out of which let's say you used about 200 GB only. Would you pay the cost for only 200 or 1024? If you go for a managed, no matter how much you use, you'll have to pay the entire amount. But if you go for an unmanaged and attach the storage account, you will only pay for the read and write operations and the amount of data that you're storing into that particular storage account out there. So the cost is the main factor that actually influences someone to go for an unmanaged versus a managed. But unmanaged, you will not get the best SLA. The SLA is not guaranteed. This is what Microsoft kind of gives you a warning out here, telling that, you know what, the SLA is something that I cannot promise you, because in a managed disk, there is a lot of things that I kind of manage and you do not, manage a lot of things out there. So the SLA is something that I really cannot offer you. That is something what Microsoft kind of tells you. So if you do not have, let's say, a storage account, you can actually go ahead and create a storage account from this particular visit creation. You can say create new, you can add a storage account to it, and let's say the type C, guys, it is premium because you selected a premium SSD. If I do a standard HDD, and if I come down out here, it would be a standard. You cannot select a premium. So it's that way. The rest of the process is the same. Like when you go inside the virtual machine, you will see the same disk and all those will not change. This is how you create an unmanaged disk. And very important interview question is that what is the difference between a managed and unmanaged disk? What do you really get in unmanaged and what you get in a managed? And what would you go for? And if I were you, and if I do not have a budget constraint, I will definitely go for a managed disk only, because I don't want to take the headache of, let's say, managing my backend infrastructure. So I definitely would like to go for a managed disk. But just in case if cost is a factor, and we have a good team basically which can take care of all our storage account and make sure that they are regularly maintained and etc., we can go for an unmanaged disk and reduce some cost. This is how it is, guys. Guys, any questions with this topic? Anything? Any questions?
So
Yeah,
in this unmanaged disk, so the disk will be saved on our storage account, right? So
correct. The disk will be saved on the storage account.
okay.
So all the
And
data
one
will
more
be written
thing,
to your storage. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So for the snapshot, they will charge for that.
So it's a resource. They're going to charge you, but the charge is very minimal.
Okay.
So why are they not charging you for a snapshot? Is that at the end of the day, they also know that you'll be creating a disk out of that snapshot, and they'll charge you for that disk that you're creating, and not the actual snapshot out there.
But still they will charge minimal, right?
Very minimal.
For
Like
the snapshot.
it's going to be in cents. Like if I talk about dollars, right, it's going to be in cents. Very, very minimal. You won't even see that reflecting in your bill probably.
Mhm.
Like any cloud provider, guys, like it's their business right now, and this is how they kind of earn, right? Any cloud provider is going to have a pricing model, and that's where there is a comparison between AWS and Azure. They say Azure is costly, AWS is cheaper, because AWS basically relies upon a lot of third-party service providers who can outsource their services for a cheaper rate, but you won't get the SLA what you get in Azure. Like if you look at like the top 80 Fortune 500 companies, right? 80% of the Fortune 500 companies, they kind of prefer Azure. Reason being, they have a very quick SLA. Like, believe me, when we work on production environments and we are not able to troubleshoot some issue, when we definitely don't know what's happening in the background, we go ahead and raise a ticket with Microsoft, and there is called severity in that. Like when you say it's like a ticket, right, with Microsoft, there is going to be a severity level. They have three kind of severity levels: A, B, and C. They have three kind of severity levels, guys. But how do you raise a support request? Since that we're there, like any blade you go, help and support, and you can create a new support request out here. and you can fill out the entire form and send it out to Microsoft as such. So some kind of an issue type, billing, all that stuff. This is some random problem type is like something random out there. So some random problem out here, and it says, I'll give you a solution. I'll say no. They'll say, fill up additional details out here and all that stuff. And finally, they say, what, review and create this out. Like until review and create this out. And you can also go ahead and select what is the severity out here. You have three kind of severities, guys: A, B, and C. Right now, the severity selected as C, minimal impact. They do not have the type A and B here because it's a free trial account. But if you were in an organization, you would also have a drop down out here to ask you to select the severity. And if it's an A level severity, right, the turnaround is very quick. Like I have raised a couple of A level severity when I kind of work, because there is some issues basically that is happening in the backend which we are not able to figure out, and we would generally get a call within like about 15 minutes. Like from the time when you create your A level severity, you're gonna get a call from a Microsoft professional within 15 minutes, and they're gonna be with you on the call. Like no matter what, how much time it takes, they will resolve it. They will reduce the severity and only then leave the call. That's how they see. That's how seriously they take their SLA. And this is why Microsoft products are very much popular in the market. So this is how you kind of create a support ticket, guys. Like if you run into any issue, you can definitely at any given point in time you can take a support ticket. But will it cost anything to create it? No, because you're already paying for it. Like when you go for a pay as you go, right, it'll ask you what kind of a support do you want. If you go for a basic, you don't have to pay anything. Standard, you'll have to pay something. Premium, you'll have to pay a lot. So this is how it kind of happens, guys. Guys, any questions today? Any questions for today? Anything else?
But most commonly we will use managed disks.
Most probably, like in 99% of the times, I have not seen people going for unmanaged disks. Even if there is a bit of cost involved into it, I've not seen people going with an unmanaged. Most likely you will go with a managed only, but it's very important for us to also understand what an unmanaged is. Because those are like, those are the key points in an interview when someone is like hiring you for an IaaS role, infrastructure as a service role. Those are like the key points what they look into. Like what is this and what is that and all that stuff. And wherever possible, guys, please read the documentation. Anything else, guys? Anything else apart from this?
Few minutes ago, you used the name called Blade. So, what is the Blade in Azure?
Blade is nothing but options.
Okay.
All these are called blades. That's it. I think I did tell that, let's say, when we are creating resource groups, but just an FYI, these are called blades out here. So all the options that you see here are called blades.
Okay.
Anything else, guys? So what we are going to do tomorrow is that we're going to look into the concept called Azure backup and recovery and all that stuff. But what I want you to read is a concept called Azure shared disks. Meaning question here is that I have one virtual machine, sorry, I have two virtual machines, only one data disk. Can you attach that particular data disk to two virtual machines at the same time? Answer is yes, you can, provided you have something known as a shared disk support. So while you're creating the disks, please go ahead and see where that option is and see how you can create it. This is your homework. Please look into a concept known as shared disk, and also let me know why are you using the shared disk? In what scenarios are you, let's say, going to use the shared disks? And we will start the tomorrow's class with that particular topic, and we'll go more into, let's say, the backup and recovery process in Azure and what are the resources that you use. So if there are no further questions, guys, we are good to go ahead and take an end to the session today.
Can we increase the throughput?
No, you cannot increase the throughput. If you have to increase the throughput, you'll have to also increase the size. So each and every size comes with a static throughput out there. So if you want to go ahead and increase that throughput, you'll have to also increase the size along with it. Does that answer your question, Shrikant?
Yeah.
Anything else, guys, before we close it? Okay, if there's nothing else, then have a great day ahead, guys, and we will meet tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.